So now with the direction that the Mets starting rotation is going and the trend of how David Stearns has ran teams in Milwaukee, a six-man rotation is very likely for the Mets in 2024. The Mets' current top five, the starting rotation, right now stands with Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino, and Adrian Hauser, which opens up the Mets' internal depth as sixth arm candidates. First, there is left-handed pitcher Joey Lucchesi, who had a solid return from Tommy John surgery last season, posting a 2.89 earned run average, 4.22 fielding independent pitching, striking out 16.4% of batters across 46.2 innings pitched. Lucchesi is now 31 years old and is under team control through 2025. Then there is right-handed pitcher Jose Butto, a graduated Mets prospect who, just like Lucchesi, was very solid last season in a smaller sample, posting a 3.64 earned run average, a 4.02 fielding independent pitching, striking out 21.2% of batters across 42 innings pitched. Butto is now 26 years old and pitched a career-high 133 innings combined between the major league level and AAA Syracuse. And finally, there's right-handed pitcher Tylor Megill, who was very inconsistent throughout 25 starts last year, posting a 4.70 earned run average, a 4.96 fielding independent pitching, striking out just 18.5% of batters across 126.1 innings pitched. Megill will enter a 28-year-old season and will get an extended look in spring training as well as the other candidates. Other names in this conversation include David Peterson, who is expected to miss the first few months recovering from hip surgery, as well as Max Kranick, a 26-year-old right-handed pitcher who was claimed off of waivers by the Mets from Pittsburgh a few weeks ago and can start. Minor league prospects who could be considered with a strong spring campaign include Mike Vassell, Christian Scott, and Justin Jarvis, who was acquired by the Mets from Milwaukee at the trade deadline in exchange for outfielder Mark Canha.
When it comes to the New York Mets rotation, in all likelihood, it definitely can be a six-man rotation based off of the trends that David Stearns has done. When it comes to that six-man, I feel like right now Tylor Megill is the guy that has the edge. I think that Jose Butto, he's gotten his opportunities. Haven't seen anything too impressive. I mean, don't forget that when Tylor Megill first came up, he was pitching really good, and then he had the injuries, and then he had the inconsistencies. But at least we've seen him actually be effective on the major league level. I like what I saw from Joey Lucchesi this past season. I thought he got really an unfair chance. I thought that with the way this rotation performed, how bad it was, you get rid of guys like Verlander and Scherzer. I think that Joey Lucchesi should have got more starts than he did. But I think that ultimately this is going to be one of those spring training battles, perhaps, where we were talking about earlier on with the prospects, but it'll make the decision for them much easier if someone has a very good spring training or if someone has a really bad spring training. Like if Joey Lucchesi gets bombed, it's like, okay, well, he's probably not the leading candidate to be in the sixth-man spot. But if you see one of these prospects step up and have a good spring, or Tylor Megill has a good spring, then going into it, you're like, okay, that's probably going to be our sixth starter, and then it could be adjusted as things go on. If all of a sudden someone's pitching really well in the minor league system, and then you have an injury or someone isn't pitching well, then you can kind of make that switch. But one of the other things that I would be looking at is the fact that, before the Mets had signed Sean Manaea, there was this rumor that maybe they're interested in a Hyun-Jin Ryu. Or I think even Mike Clevenger was another name that they were also linked to. I could also see them maybe taking that approach because it's kind of similar to what we said with the DH position, where if those guys weren't there for you last year as, okay, they could be in a starting role per se, in this case with a starting pitcher being there every 5 days or every 6 days in a six-man rotation, I don't see how they are this year. I mean, that's the other thing that I kind of worry about is that if you felt that, okay, we need to sign Severino, we need to sign Manaea and trade for Hauser because we don't have enough confidence in our other internal options, I don't understand why all of a sudden you would still have them in the rotation by making it a six-man rotation. So I think that unless a prospect steps up, like some of those guys that you listed, I mean, whether it be Jarvis or some of the other young pieces, unless one of those guys comes over and really kind of takes it by storm, I could see them as maybe adding one other veteran piece on a one-year deal or even like a minor league contract, things like that, and see if maybe they could battle it out. Because I think Megill, right now, he's probably the leading candidate. But I think that if he gets hurt again or struggles or what have you, then all of a sudden it gets a lot tougher as far as who is going to be that sixth guy. Because right now there's no hands down, no doubt about it. Like, that's our guy.
Still don't know if there is going to be a 6-man rotation, but again, like at this current trend, quite a few pieces who have really struggled to stay healthy or, struggled to get length out of. So you get that extra day and that extra rest. Everybody can throw at max effort with an extra day of rest. Now, obviously, I have the soft spot for Tylor Megill. I have because I think that at his best, he could be a really good pitcher. There just has to be a way where they find that type of consistency with him if he is going to be a starter or he's going to be a reliever. And I think that overall, the sixth starter kind of has to be someone who can give you length out of the bullpen, maybe 4 or 5 innings as a start. Multiple inning opener, shall we say, where you don't really tax the bullpen as much in the first 5 days with the actual rotation, with everybody on short rest so they can go farther innings. And then you kind of have this sixth arm who could come out of the bullpen if the other starter needs help, or they can give you some innings to start off being kind of like an opener. In terms of the style of pitcher, like innings eater, I think that Jose Butto is probably the best bet for that. But then there's also Joey Lucchesi, who also can give you multiple innings. I don't really trust that he's going to be as good as he was last year. It was a small sample. I just don't think that he's going to continue to repeat that. Tylor Megill, it seems like, and I saw this report from the Post yesterday, looked like he developed some kind of split-fingered fastball or something. Apparently, it's being classified on the Mets analytics team as an elite pitch. So, you know what? Maybe there's a possibility where he develops this pitch, he starts throwing a little bit harder, gets the extra day of rest, and maybe he is the sixth guy in the rotation. We already know my concerns about David Peterson, but he's currently a non-factor given his missing a surgery. It looks like since this has been a problem for him for a while, he'll probably rehab for a little bit. And, maybe he comes back, after the All-Star break or something like that. We'll see him maybe come into the mix eventually. And then, of course, maybe you do get a strong Mike Vassell and you get a strong performance from Christian Scott. You get a strong performance from Justin Jarvis. I'm not really expecting this Max Kranick guy to do much, but he is an option who can give you some innings. I don't know. If you can get a strong campaign in spring from Jose Butto, Joey Lucchesi, Tylor Megill, Max Kranick, Mike Vassell, Christian Scott, Justin Jarvis, any of those 7 arms, which by probability, you will get a good performance from one of them. That would be guaranteed of these guys to be at the top of the food chain. Hopefully, it is one of the major league ready pieces where you can give a little bit more time to some of your prospects in the minor leagues before they come up. I'm hoping that we do get a breakout starter-ish performance in spring. Like, that's what I'm hoping to see. And listen, I think that we're going to be talking about this a lot throughout spring training of who's in the lead, of who's how everyone is doing, what we like from this guy, what we dislike from this guy. Should this guy start in AAA? Should this guy start in the majors? But I think that having that extra arm, again, for that insurance, just to keep the rest of the rotation healthy is going to be extremely important. And we'll see where that consistency lands with these sixth arm candidates.
I think the only thing that I would be monitoring is that you talk about trying to have the bullpen kind of rested those 5 days, and then the sixth guy, it could be more like opener type. My only concern is that based off of the kind of starts that Sean Manaea had this past season where he wasn't working too deep into games and, the injury history of Luis Severino, things like that, I don't know if the Mets have the current rotation where they have those 5 guys who are not going to tax the bullpen. I think that they already might have 1 or 2 guys already in there that kind of do that already. So then to add a 6th guy also doing that, you also wonder how that impacts the bullpen, especially if, like we said earlier, Ottavino is the only other addition that they make. They still don't really have that other swingman in the bullpen that kind of gives you those multiple innings as that nice middle relief pitcher that can kind of bridge the gap to the high leverage guys of the Brooks Raley, maybe Jorge Lopez, and definitely Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, there is some open spots in this bullpen right now. And as you look at it, maybe they do choose a 6th arm for the rotation, and also they add another guy who can start. So maybe you have 2 options that can kind of clean up innings if you have a blow-up start from Manaea, or you have a blow-up start from Luis Severino, or have a blow-up start from Adrian Hauser, who, on a good day is giving you 2 to 3 run ball through 5 innings. So there is a lot of options. And I think, again, just for everything, they're keeping those options open for like a pool of pieces that they've seen the best of and they have seen the worst of, and hopefully they can kind of just narrow it down to that sort of median of who's going to start off in AAA and who's going to start off in the major leagues. And I really think, again, a 6-man rotation would really benefit the Mets, especially with the type of arms that they have brought into this rotation. And hopefully they just have one of these 7 or 8 arms that could possibly be that 6-man. Hopefully they just see one of them stick in spring training, and odds are 1 of 8 do well, maybe 2 of 8 do well, or 3 of 8 do well. Hopefully they can have reliable enough options of where they can give you bunches of innings out of the bullpen or from the rotation just to keep everybody else in the rotation healthy.